Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Pittsburgh. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Brian David Marshall. And we're ready for round number 4 here. We're playing Modern here this weekend. And right underway, we've got Reid Duke playing Pyromancers. It's Storm, right?
Yeah,
Let's just call it like it is.
It is
He's
Pyromancer Ascension. It's actually not a possessive S there
No.
at the end of Pyromancer Ascension.
It's Pyromancer. There's this very small subset of Magic players that drives nuts. That people say Pyromancer Ascension. His opponent, of course, is Alex Majlaton, who is on, well, you can see it in front of you right now, Affinity, as
this
he
is what he does.
Pukes his hand on the table here, BDM. Look at this. He's only got one card left.
Yeah, that's what
Nice
he wants
island,
to do.
Reid.
So yeah, he plays Ornithopter, Vault Scourge, and Signal Pest. He's got a welding jar to keep him going if something should get grape shot for one.
Yeah. Hey, this is looking really good for Alex with the quick start. Now, he does need to find the payoff card here,
Well,
right?
Pyromancer Ascension.
The Signal Pest is going to be responsible for a good amount of damage here, but God, he'd love to see something. Yeah, he doesn't have anything else. So it's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 damage plus 2 poison counters as well.
Reid only falls to 16, right? He's like, send everything. I'm at 16. I've got 2 poison.
He does have that Pyromancer Ascension down.
So Pyromancer Ascension, though, you need to play 2 cards. Basically, whenever you play an instant or sorcery, if it has the same name as a card in your graveyard, you can put a quest counter on it. And then once it has 2 counters,
Yep.
whenever you play an instant or sorcery, you get to make a copy of it.
Exactly. And at that point, the deck usually wins.
So 2 mana. There's a Manamorphose for Reid Duke. Draw a card, put some mana into his mana pool.
Now, this is going to be a very unforgiving game here for Reid. He is going to have to craft this perfectly, as he has found himself under a significant amount of pressure here. He's taking 4 damage a turn.
That's Pyretic Ritual.
As well as a couple of poison counters. And, you know, Alex is a draw step away. Oh, here's another Pyretic Ritual.
So now that's the first counter on Pyromancer Ascension.
And that also gets him a bunch of mana here.
He does have a Grape Shot in hand. There's the second Manamorphose.
Whoa! Pyromancer Ascension is now online. Can he capitalize on it?
He hasn't found a third land yet.
No, but he should have some combination
Yeah.
of blue and red mana floating in his mana pool now after the 2 rituals, and Reid is going for it here.
Yeah, so he casts Sleight of Hand, and then he's going to get to put a copy of Sleight of Hand on the stack because of the 2 counters on Pyromancer Ascension.
And this is really one of the core interactions for this deck, is the fact that cards like Sleight of Hand now draw you 2, right? And they still offer you the card selection, but you know normally these cards are considered fair because you don't actually get ahead on cards with them. You're just sort of selecting better cards at the cost of mana. But here, he's now netting cards as well as getting that card selection going.
This may be my last Grand Prix ever. I need to commit a murder for someone now. I've been brought an iced coffee.
BDM offered his services. You know, I don't know if doing that on social media was the best, by the way. Some evidence floating around. Yeah, Reid is just going off here.
He does have a Grape Shot in hand.
Does he have any mana left? That's the hard part to visualize here, is what kind of mana he has left. Here's a Gitaxian Probe, which, again, normally is card neutral. Now it's plus cards, thanks to Pyromancer Ascension being online.
Starts to count up his storm count.
Another ritual.
So that puts 6 mana into his mana pool.
Yes, and here's Manamorphose.
Draw 2 cards and put 4 mana into your mana pool.
And he nets mana on it.
Yeah.
Nets mana and cards.
He just drew a Desperate Ravings, I see.
Okay, that can help.
Still hasn't played a 3rd land for the turn. So there's a Grape Shot.
So he gets an extra copy of it. That one won't trigger the storm again. And it looks like he's actually just going for Alex. and he's got Past in Flames, Grape Shot You again. And the first one was for 11. That means the next one's going to be for more. And that kills Alex. So Reid Duke, Storm combo just goes off on Alex Majlaton, who had a pretty reasonable start to the game there.
Yeah, nothing to sort of, act as an artifact crusade, no Steel Overseer. But even if he had a Steel Overseer, it wouldn't have even mattered.
No.
Reid was able to just...
What he needed there was more like a Ravager.
Yes.
Right? Because then he could poison him out. Like, he already had him at 2 poison, and he could just sack his whole board, putting them all on an Inkmoth Nexus and finish off Reid that turn. I mean, Reid would have been dead that turn. But instead, Reid went off.
There you see our back table, Greg Orange playing Splinter Twin against Jacob Wilson, who's playing Jund.
Oh, he's playing Jund. Interesting.
Yeah.
I know that Jund had a really successful run at the RPTQ level, which the last one happened to be Modern. And we've got a lot of data. I actually looked through all of them. There's, however many RPTQs run around the world, 30 or something. And I just looked at all of the lists just to try to get a feel for what people are playing kind of on the ground level. And a lot of Jund.
Well, anecdotally, just this week, just listening to people on Facebook and Twitter, pros, and people looking for cards, putting out the call, like, I need these cards for Grand Prix Pittsburgh. It sounded like a lot of Jund. There were a lot of, also seemed to be a lot of rumblings about Amulet online.
I've heard a lot of rumblings about Amulet recently. Interesting rumblings. People don't like that deck, except for, of course, the people that play it. But the ones that don't are I don't know, there seems to be a little bit of like a groundswell of like, ugh.
And when you say don't like that deck, a year ago people didn't like that deck, but they were like, I don't like that deck. I'm not going to play it. It's no good. It's a joke deck.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're saying people don't like that deck because they feel like it is oppressing them?
Yeah, it's funny because the question is what changed, right? Like there was no breakout card that was like, oh, this makes this thing a deck. Those cards have been around since Modern was around for the most part. It's just people finally put them all together. And I think that the main thing is just that people have realized that yes, it can be a high variance deck, but it has more play to it than you think it does, and it's worth it. The deck is that good. It does things that are, by Modern standards, broken, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
There's very few decks in Modern that can win on turn 2. Reid has one of them in his hands with Storm. You can see a Goryo's Vengeance style deck win on turn 2 occasionally, but the one that you'll actually see put it together the most often is the Amulet deck. And the fact is, you don't need to win on turn 2. It can.
Right. I walked over to a match on the floor in round 3 between 2 players, and one player was playing Affinity and again had the insane opening and even had the Steel Overseer and had activated it. And I was like, oh, well, this does not look good. This is, turn 3 for the other player. This does, they're playing Amulet Bloom, and they just put 2 Primeval Titans into play that turn.
It looked a little better after that, huh? For the Amulet player.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting stuff, though, for sure. And, given that the next Pro Tour is Modern, I think a lot of people have their eye on that deck to see, well, maybe some ban and restricted announcement stuff, it's something that pros have to consider as they work their way up to the Pro Tour and want to get really good. That deck's good.
Sure.
That deck's good. And, one of the things about Modern that Wizards has said is that, they'd prefer it to not be like a turn 3 type format. And if a deck creeps too close to that, which, by the way, Storm did.
Yes.
And then it got a bunch of stuff banned out from under it, they usually will take action. So I think it's reasonable, it's an interesting discussion for sure to consider it.
So it looks like these players are about ready for game 2. There we go.
Springleaf Drum for Alex? No.
Yep.
Yes.
I see. Gitaxian Probe is going to lead things off for Reid Duke.
Let's get a look at what Alex is working with here. A pair of Signal Pests, a couple of lands, and a Blast.
Wow, that is a underwhelming hand.
Not a great hand. He
I
is
don't
going to
even
be
know
able
that.
to
I don't
play
even know
both
that that's
Signal
a
Pests next turn.
super great hand against a fair deck. much less an unfair deck.
Definitely not a great hand against a fair deck. But you know how this affinity deck can be. He can top deck a Plating,
Sure.
a Ravager,
Sure.
and that'll change this into a completely different matchup.
So fetch land, Reid.
Now Reid is, Reid is very cognizant of this matchup, and there's a few others. He brings in 3 Shatterstorm out of the sideboard. Does Reid Duke?
Wow. All right, there's sleight of hand. Not just Ancient Grudge, Shatterstorm. I just want to. You can have a Darksteel Citadel.
And Reid, being the old school player that he is, he brings those whiteboard like where the cup's falling over. He brings those ones, and I just know it.
All right, he knows he's not under any immediate threat.
No, he'll be facing down a couple of signal pests here, likely, but.
So, of course, eating away 25% of his life total just getting himself set up for turn 2.
No, that is true.
There's
there we go.
Signal pass. Oh, and there's a Vault Scourge off the top.
Okay. So he did find another threat. That certainly matters. You can see that Alex is showing Reid what he already knows, which is that his hand is Mountain Galvanic Blast.
So that Galvanic Blast has Reid at virtually 11 here.
Pyromancer Ascension for Reid Duke to kick things off. Now he's on
like,
the draw here.
Can you do 11 damage?
Probably not.
Animate a Nexus. 2 triggers from the Signal Pests. So those are each dealing 1. The Nexus is doing 3. The Vault Scourge is doing 3. And then another Vault Scourge.
Okay, well, this is some business. I mean, he does finish off the game in a couple of turns here.
Of course, the 3 damage from the Nexus is a Ink Moth Nexus, so that's poison.
Yeah. Yeah, right now his regular damage clock is a little quicker. All right, here's Gataxian Probe, though, for Reid. And it does look like he's going to try to go off this turn here. He gets the first counter down. He finds a Goblin Electromancer.
I think he has another Sleight of Hand in hand.
Yeah, you're correct. That means that the Pyromancer Ascension is active. And Alex Majlaton is like, yep.
He has hit F6.
Yeah.
And he has leaned back in his chair.
Yeah.
He's just got his Galvanic.
He's just holding it out there. Yeah, no, I mean, Reid has to go off now. So here we go. Let's see if Reid can put this together. He did last time. Ooh, did he find one of his Shatterstorms? Because that would go a long way here. He'd need to combine it with some rituals to be able to cast it, but... Oh, I think it's a Lightning Bolt, actually. Pass the turn back, says Reid. And Galvanic Blast you on end step, so that's going to drop you down to 4, Reid Duke. Now, what happens if he kills one of the Signal Pests?
Well, he can kill both of them, right? He's going to put 2 copies on the stack with the Lightning. So the Lightning Bolt's going to go 2/2.
All right, so he ends up taking 2 damage then. Well, he can deal with that. He's at 4, though. We show him at 8, but he shouldn't be at 8. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, Lightning Bolt seems great here. He can decide whether if he wants to kill both Vault Scourges. He could even consider if he wants to take down the Nexus, if he thinks that that's going to be a problem going down the line.
He does take down both Vault Scourges. Both Signal Pests.
Signal Pests instead, yep. And the Blink Moth is going to pump the Ink Moth there as well.
So that's 5 poison.
and it leaves Reid at 2. But this is the turn window he needed, and let's see if he can capitalize on it, because this is a big turn for Reid. This is very likely his last turn. I mean, there are ways he can clear off the Vault Scourges that aren't him winning the game, but
start off
he would prefer
with a Goblin Electromancer. Wow, Goblin Electromancer into Metamorphose here for 1 mana. Turn 1 mana. Oh no, he's going to go Desperate Ritual first.
Okay. Similar.
Okay. That puts a lot of mana into his mana.
Yeah, he
pool.
has what? Oh, here's Metamorphose as well.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Reid Duke getting in the driver's seat here and seeing how far he can go. I see he's got a Past in Flames already in his hand. Ooh, he draws another Metamorphose. That's just enough to keep the chain going. Woof, that was close.
So paying 1 mana for that Metamorphose because of the Goblin Electromancer, you're netting 3 mana.
Yeah.
Because you get to copy it, you get to draw 2 cards.
Whatever
there's
color you want.
There's a Shatterstorm, too.
Oh, did you see a Shatterstorm in
I
hand?
thought I did, yeah.
Shatterstorm looks pretty darn good here. The Nexus is still a problem, but it's good. Oh yeah, you're
And
right.
it is the ugly white bordered one
Yeah,
you
it
had
is,
mentioned.
right? Yeah.
Well, we're going to Past in Flames here.
All right. So can he just work his way through? And
He can just work
win
his way
here?
through his whole graveyard.
Wow! Look at that yard. Look at that. There's 1 land. He can work. He can literally play all of those spells. 2 probes, 2 sleight of hands, a bolt, 2 Metamorphose, and 2 Desperate Ritual. He's going to play all of them. And you know he's going to draw 2 cards each off the Metamorphose and two cards each off the probes.
He has double-digit mana in his mana.
Yeah, he's just going to end up with, more than enough mana, and he should be able to find what he needs here, just by drawing all these extra cards. Look at him go.
First Metamorphose. Second Metamorphose. Oh, this is just good. There's the Grape Shot.
Okay, WinCon acquired. Now he just needs to cast enough spells.
He gets the Lightning Bolt you twice.
And once he does it to Alex is going to
Yeah.
know that the gig's up. And he probably already knows anyway. But
And then here comes the Grape Shot. He's going to flash back, Past in Flames.
and just Grape Shot
And the
you
Grape
again.
Shot again, yeah.
Wow. Great stuff from Reid Duke there. Able to go off both games.
Was
And
that a
just
turn
Grape
3
Shot.
kill each game? Or was that a turn 3 and a
I don't
turn? That was
know.
a turn 4 kill.
It must have been.
Wow.
And Alex, he kind of just played the spectator there. He was with us. It just really wasn't much Alex had control over as far as that goes. And that's how it goes with Affinity. It's not super interactive. So let's jump over and see what Gregory Orange is up to against number 9 on our top 25 pro rankings, Jacob Wilson from Canada. It looks like an Engineered Explosives is going to gobble up a Goyf here momentarily.
Play a land, discard your last card, please. It's a bolt. It takes Liliana down to 2. Activate Raging Ravine. Attack with everybody. Oh,
And that was lethal.
yeah, that's all.
Yeah, just the Raging Ravine is lethal on its own as it ends up attacking for 4 after it picks up the counter. And that's going to do it.
Okay.
Jacob Wilson wins 2-0.
So we spend all that time talking about how long some of these games are going in
And we
format.
picked the 2 quickest ones in the history of Magic.
So you seemed a little surprised. What would you have put Reid Duke on coming into this tournament? Because when I showed you the deck list as we were sitting down, you seemed a little surprised.
Yeah, what has Reid been playing lately? He's got a wide range. I'll start by saying that.
Yeah.
Reid can play many, many different decks. He used to play kind of goofy decks in Legacy.
I mean, he's really
all the way up to the best stuff.
He's the reason for Jund in Modern, right? Like he was the guy that really put
I
Liliana into Jund, and
I wouldn't
and
be
put that game
surprised
out
to
there.
see him play that.
Yeah,
That would be certainly on my short list. Make sure you join us for the World Magic Cup It's coming up December 11th through 13th. We're going to be in Barcelona, Spain.
Yeah, the entire U.S. national team is here this weekend playing.
You had
this
a chat with
tournament.
them.
I did.
We'll be bringing you that later on today. That's still processing.
It was actually the first time the team had physically met Joel Sadowski, their
Oh,
fourth
really?
member. Yeah. You've got Player of the Year Mike Sigrist. You've got Pro Tour champion Tom Martell. You have Grand Prix champion Neil Oliver. Then you have Joel Sadowski, who is like vying for the role of Justin Gary, Bob Maher, Luis Scott Vargas, Paul Cheon, the anonymous guy from the U.S. national team who goes on to great things. So,
is he the one that brought you the coffee, or?
No. That was.
I wonder if he should start doing that.
That was Randy.
That was Randy. All right.
So, sounds like we're going to try to switch over our text matchup.
Yeah, we're going to bring
bring
him over.
And that might be a player you'd be interested at home in seeing. Got Charles Magyar versus Owen Turtenwald.
Who?
This guy he recently did some limited podcast.
Yeah, he did. He actually had a great interview on the podcast. Owen, he's great. So straightforward with that kind of stuff. Love chatting with Owen. He's also just very funny.
What does this matchup look like?
So on Owen's side, this is we see this. I've seen him play decks like this pretty often, which are he does often play linear decks. He's really good at playing those mid-range grinder decks. He can do those, especially in standard. But he's on affinity for this one.
Okay.
Now, Charles is playing a very weird deck. This is not a deck you see very often.
It's called Azorius Bears on his deck list.
Designer, me. And so we call this hate bears for short, because there's not this deck, but this type of deck, which is basically these cheap, usually 2-mana creatures, the bears, right?
Right.
That disrupt your opponent.
So he's playing
while applying pressure.
So he's playing Meddling Mage. He's playing Thalia. These are the cards you're talking about in that regard.
Yep. Thalia, those are definitely the type of cards.
Leonin Arbiter.
Yep. Doesn't let you search unless you pay.
But then this deck has cards like Kira Great Glass Spinner, Sky Hussar.
What the?
You almost had to put $1 in the jar.
Vryn Nightmare, Brimaz. A lot of one-ofs here.
Yeah, Scab Ruinator.
This is a brew. I have not seen this exact list. I see a lot of ones, a lot of twos on this list.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like Charles came up with something spicy for us, which I think is great. And he's going to Game 3 against Owen Turtenwald.
Yeah, and Owen Turtenwald, someone plays a significant amount of his life on Magic Online. Spends a lot of time playing.
The majority.
Yeah. So
when he's not in an airplane.
I'm curious if he's ever been on the wrong end of a Scab Ruinator in any of his modern preparations for this tournament.
If anybody has, it's probably him, but I'm still saying no. No, this is going to be sweet. I'm really curious to see what Charles is up to here.
Both of these players are 3-0. You have to assume Charles has won his way through. Certainly won at least one round. Obviously, Owen is Platinum Pro. It's basically, one of the elite players in the game.
Number one.
Yeah. Is, Platinum had 3 buys.
Interesting coming into Game 3 here as well, as there's some cool little interactions that will have happened. In many ways, Charles, his deck is an Aether Vial deck, right? He's got 4 Aether Vial, and he's looking to get ahead on those and kind of disrupt what you're doing by flashing in these disruptive creatures that, like, when you say, oh, I'll crack my fetch land, he's like, yeah, maybe not, right? Maybe you have to pay for that. But some of the other interactions are mana denial strategies. He's running 4 Ghost Quarter. Now, Owen, he's got a basic, but just one. He's got a mountain in his list. So the first Ghost Quarter can find something. After that, there's Strip Mines. Now, you might think, well, why do you really want that against Affinity? They don't really need that much mana. But the truth is that oftentimes the Affinity player does rely on its lands, the creature lands,
yes,
to finish the game off. It happens all the time in Affinity I used to play a Jeskai, kind of a control list in Modern. And, that thing has Path to Exile, Lightning Bolt, Helix. It has all the cheap spot removal you could ever want. And you think, well, that's pretty good against Affinity. Even though they go, a little wider on the battlefield, it's not perfect. But, you can pick off a bunch of creatures. And you can. And what happens every time is the dust settles, and then they start hitting you with Ink Moths and Blink Moths, and then you die. So that's really a good thing for Charles to be able to do. And then also sometimes he can use that against non-affinity decks that have basics and just prevent them from searching them out.
Yeah. Charles also has cards like Ghostly Prison and Stony Silence in his sideboard that may come into play here in Game 2 or Game 3.
Certainly going to come into his deck. Yeah. We'll see if he draws one. That is incredibly difficult for Owen to beat. If he does stick a Stony Silence, it's really rough for Owen.
So Charles is on the play here, so we can reasonably assume Charles won Game 1, Owen won Game 2, and now Charles is leading things off. He's going right to 17 here on a Flooded Strand into Hollowed Fountain. Is that an Aether Vial? It is. All right.
Ideal start for Charles. He does want to have Aether Vial going. You see him put a die on top of his library to remind him to tick up that vial, get some value going. Ooh, Owen brought in his
disruption package.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. This is really interesting, too, because especially given the nature of Aether Vial, right? It gives your creatures flash effectively. It also can't be countered.
So Kira, Great Glass Spinner, Sarah Avenger. Is that Thalia?
That's a Hero of Bladehold.
Oh, that's a hero. Oh, wow.
He went big. But the key here, right, is that Charles can really screw up what you're trying to do by flashing in one of these hate bears that says you can't search or you got to pay extra and all these things that can be really annoying. And Owen is going to be able to not only take the best threat away, but also be aware of anything that he can do. Sarah Avenger does good work on the blocks. Kira, Great Glass Spinner, probably good enough against Owen, but he's not going to have a ton of spot removal.
I can't see what the last card is down. Oh, that's a Leonin Arbiter?
That's a Leonin Arbiter at the bottom there, yeah.
So he takes the Sarah Avenger, leaves the Arbiter.
And he's got Memnite Ornithopter as follow-up.
Yeah.
All right.
Really nice versions of both, too.
Yeah, agree.
So second Aether Vial for Charles.
Now Owen just wants to try to put the pedal to the metal. He doesn't have the tools to do it yet. Bringing in Thoughtseize means you're not going to be hitting for as much damage on average. But now he just wants to find pressure.
Well, okay, there's a Steel Overseer. That's pretty good.
Yeah, they do that every time.
Yeah.
Aether Vial, you can activate it, but then not put a creature.
Right. You want to see if someone has something.
Yeah, it's just a good habit, I would say.
Yeah. A good, if not slightly annoying habit.
Yes, I would also say that.
Okay, there's the Leonin Arbiter. And then Path to Exile, your Steel Overseer.
Yeah, that's huge. And Owen does not search, so he must have taken that mountain out. Or it's in his hand. That's more likely, right? Yeah, it's got to be in his hand. That's a bummer for Owen. He gets Path, actually has a mountain in his list, and I'm pretty sure he's just drawn it, so he can't go search it up. Yeah, there it is. I just saw it in his hand.
Well, he also can't. He has to pay 2 to search his library from the Arbiter.
Yeah, true. So. Wouldn't have mattered anyway. But the truth is, he doesn't have that option anyway with it in his hand. And that's going to be really interesting, too. Again, going back to... So now we've got a Blink Moth Nexus on the battlefield here. Ooh, Meddling Mage.
We complimented the choice of art on Owen's side. We have to maybe be a little critical of the Meddling Mage choice on this side.
What did he name? Can't quite see it. Well, we'll get that information for you at home. He named Whip Flare. See if Owen... Yeah, Owen has one of those in his sideboard, and it would obviously be a complete wrecking ball.
Probably came up last game, I'm going to guess.
It might have. He also... I mean, the thing about, the way Charles is playing here, like with Meddling Mage and such, is I mean, he does have to kind of know what people, what the cards that matter are if you're going to play main deck Meddling Mage, which he is, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
His list goes almost all the way to the bottom.
All the way to the floor.
Never seen so 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s.
So he's got an Arbiter, a Meddling Mage, and a Kira, Great Glass Spitter. There's Vault Scourge. That's an Inkmoth Nexus for Owen.
No attacks. Well, looks like Charles has everything going here.
Charles is going to 4. He's got a Hero of Bladehold in
Yeah.
hand that's been sitting there since the opening turn.
Totally. This is not looking great for Owen here. He's sitting back on his Etched Champion. But Charles is going to start being able to attack with Kira, which he's doing here. Interesting position for Owen, as he actually can get rid of Kira here if he'd like. But it would require some risk. All right, he's just going to take it.
Committing several resources.
He would have to activate. So that pesky mountain still in hand for Owen, and what else? Is it another Thoughtseize? I can't actually see it. All right, Vault Scourge in. And Owen just passes the turn back, but as you mentioned, BDM, boom. Hero of Bladehold. That thing is nasty.
It's always interesting to me to see a Leon and Arbiter and play and a Flooded Strand.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, when you look at the draw that Charles has had here, he's effectively on one land. Look at his board. Nice Aether Vials, right? I mean, it's absurd. All right, so he's going to trigger his Hero of Bladehold.
I could tell by his hand gestures that he was very emphatic about getting the stacking right.
Yes, he wants to make sure he gets his soldiers, and then they get pumped. You do get 2 triggers with Hero, so that's what he was explaining. And Owen is going to activate his Inkmoth Nexus. Oh, another Path to Exile for Charles. He can't target the champion, but it does mean that he's going to be able to keep his Hero of Bladehold alive, because it was going to get pumped up with that Blinkmoth Nexus down there. The Inkmoth was, and now it's dead. Oof.
Yeah, his Metalcraft is starting to get eaten away here.
It is true. He does have a Darksteel Citadel, so he's pretty safe. He finds interesting another Etched Champion.
Is that another Etched Champion?
Yeah. And that was a Mox Opal for his other card. Well, that should shore up the ground game reasonably well here, as he can now double block the Hero, and Charles probably doesn't have any way to get rid of the champions.
Owen's at 9, though.
He is.
Close to the...
It looks like math is happening here.
He's starting to think about the Alpha Strike here. 5 potential blockers for Owen.
Yeah, Charles is going to ship the whole team in here. Everything's going to get that Battle Cry trigger as well. And now Owen's the one who's doing math. He wants to know if he can double block the Hero and still realistically survive. Remember, those soldiers stay around. Like, This isn't a scenario where you only get him until end of turn. So Owen has to try to prioritize killing the hero Bladehold if possible. And if not, he just has to go into survival mode. And it's not looking good.
Right, he doesn't have a lot of great blocks anywhere else.
No.
You know, he can sort of go even up for the tokens on cards.
I mean, he can survive if he double blocks, but it's the board state that follows that is what Owen's looking at here, not the immediate blocks.
Okay. He's going to animate his Nexus.
Okay, he has found the double block here, though. Block, chump. This has him taking 5. But keeping his etched champions, right?
No, this has him taking... Yeah, those two... The Bears are getting in for 3 here.
This has him taking 6, right? 2 each from the soldiers.
Well, there's also a soldier up there.
Yeah, 2 each. 2, 4, 6. Yeah. Now he changed the block again, though. So this has him taking 7, I believe. Or 3.
8. Right?
Ah, that one. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. You're right.
I'm taking 8.
Sorry about that. The meddling mage, I didn't see it. All right, so 3, 6, 7, 8 damage. Dropping him down to 2. He does still have Metalcraft, and he did get the hero off the battlefield. So this is a huge draw step now for Owen. Uh-oh. Judge is familiar for Charles. It's an Ornithopter off the top for Owen, which lets him actually block. Yeah, he doesn't die this turn. But I think Charles can just attack with the flyers here, right? That forces the chump block.
He just attacks everybody. That's the hand.
And that is going to do it.
Charles Magyar.
Wow. Blue-white hate bears just won?
Yeah.
Beat Owen Turtenwald?
Yeah.
Look at this guy. All right.
Deck designer, me.
Me with an exclamation point, I will add.
That's what it
here.
says on his deck list.
All right, what are we doing, Rashad? Give me some info. We got a little replay to watch here, or? Okay. We'll just wait for half a second here.
That's pretty. I mean, players who don't have the benefits of being a pro and with 2 and 3 buys, they come to these events and they think about what's going to happen in round 4 when I have to play Reid Duke or Owen Turtenwald or, you know, any of these big pros. And, you know, this is kind of the dream scenario for Charles here.
Yeah,
it's like,
for sure.
My deck is going to get him.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our main features here for round 4. Hey, guys.